Nah, I mean, haha, I'm Mark Johnson. And on tonight's show, we've got a great lineup for you. We're going to be talking about music piracy. Music piracy. And record labels and certain aspects of the music industry, how artists go about dealing with the intricacies of the music industry. Are the record labels douches? On tonight's show, we've got Jimmy Nevis, you all know. We've got Diggy Bongz from Heart FM. We also have Merman coming in. He's part of a big global collective called Playing for Change. And we also have a great insert from Zoe Modiga. She's going to come in, or not come in, I've interviewed her on Skype. You'll see the video later in the insert. We're going to be chatting to her, and she's going to be telling us about her experience, about going in and out of being independent and joining a label. You can read for yourself and read between the lines what goes down. This is Namin. Have you ever, when you were younger, sat in front of the radio and recorded music off the radio? I used to do it. I used to do it all the time. Wait for the song to come on. You have to sit there for hours waiting for a song to come on. Boom, press record, get it. Hopefully the DJ doesn't come in too early over the song and you get the entire song. Have you ever made your girlfriend or your boyfriend a mixtape or a CD? Eh? Have you ever stuck your flash drive into your best friend's computer and gotten his playlists from his computer? If you've done any of these things, then you are a music pirate, which is the worst thing ever. No, it's not the worst thing ever. There are worse things in the world. Because if you are going to pirate music, or if you're going to get music, then where are you going to get it from? You still go out and buy CDs? Do you download your music? If you've ever, think about this is how bad it could be. If you've ever sat in your car, driving anywhere, singing along to the song on the radio, you could be pirating music because you're not paying royalties for the performance. Okay, that's not a good example, but still, think about what you're doing. Think about where you're getting your music from. Because it could be that you are ruining the lives of artists. It could be that you are taking the metaphorical bread off their metaphorical plates and putting it and listening to it through your metaphorical ears. This could be the reality of what's going on. Arr! Did you have, with signing with a label, the process is, your process hasn't changed. The label doesn't have expectation of like a delivery date or anything of that nature.
I think the whole idea is to get things going as soon as possible, but we're on one accord in terms of wanting things to be right. So I think it's at the point now where we just want the music to be right, and then we can match the image to the music.
Was it a major decision to stay independent or to go to be signed to a label? Was it a tough choice?
I think it was that whole thing of just wanting to take things a step further and realizing that there's some things that they will be able to offer that I wouldn't be able to do myself. Just comparing the notion of being independent to the idea of being signed to a label, do piracy concerns, sort of copyright issues, are those things that bothered you in the past and doesn't bother you now, or was it ever a concern for you while creating your music? I've definitely been learning a lot about copywriting and working with RISA, and it's quite a process for musicians to put their music in spaces where their music is copyrighted and protected. And for independent artists, it's a lot more challenging. And when I was registering the music, I was registering it as an independent. So I had to do all the admin myself, and it's quite a daunting task.
Regarding all the people that you've worked with other artists. Some of them have been signed, some of them have not been signed. Have you ever been involved in a conversation, or have you noticed that piracy in South Africa is actually a major issue for some of the artists out there?
One thing I can say is that people have been really investigating the whole thing of free downloads for their music, because as is, music is not really a fast-selling thing. A lot of artists, or most artists nowadays, even your Beyoncés and other international people, earn a lot more from live performances. So the whole free downloading that has been happening has kind of, dampened business when it comes to people,
Is that a method or medium that you are looking forward to using, supplying your music for free online?
Oh yeah, most definitely. I'm not sure about giving the music out for free though. I feel like as soon as you do that, you kind of psychologically lessen the value that your music has.
People in general, myself included, don't realize that they necessarily pirating music or stealing music or stealing from the artist, because we so readily and easily just share music. Somebody's got somebody's got music on their computer. It's like, oh, here's a flash drive, let's just get it. We don't realize that we're doing it. Do you think? Do you think that there's a way that we can make South Africans aware? Because there's PSAs and things, but is there a way that we can actually make them aware that we a bunch of criminals?
Maybe by just an idea of my head to have concerts where different South African musicians kind of hold a concert where they say no piracy, and maybe there's just a short clip about what that is, and then we just have a good time with people.
Where do you get your music?
I usually stream, and in that way I still can listen to the albums, but without feeling bad and knowing that I've kind of added to the views of the people that I've watched.
The Grammys have now just said that they're going to start recognizing. I don't know why this. It's like oh no, free music. They say they're going to start now recognizing artists or the music of artists that are putting out mixtapes and free music.
For sure.
Yeah, they want to create a separate. They actually want to create a separate category for free
I think
music.
That's very weird.
It is. Right?
I think it should be. Why is it still? My thing is, why is that still a discussion? It's still music. It's still beautiful music that gets to people and touches music the same way. Yeah. So it being a different category is a bit weird.
Are you not concerned about the things that people always complain about record labels taking advantage of artists and artists being indebted and become indentured to record labels?
Anyone who would be in the same position as I would be, coming from an independent place and getting an opportunity to get signed, would have to really consult entertainment lawyers and really understand what everything means so that you know what it is that you're getting from the deal.
As promised, I brought in one of my very good friends, at least I think he's one of my very good friends, Jimmy Nevis, multi-award-winning artist, Samas, Wawelas, the list goes on and on and on. You've had a very successful career. Very young, not a very long spanning career, but very successful in its short duration so far.
Successful, yeah.
Is it tough? Is it tough making it out there? Everybody says it's tough. Is it tough?
I think it is tough, but it's also I think any entrepreneur, any self-employed or person who doesn't work for somebody necessarily can tell you that it is tough. It's tough when you have to create your own structures, you have to create your own challenges, your own boundaries. You have to push yourself every single day. Because essentially, I think musicians today are pretty much entrepreneurs. It's not just us in the studio. It's us trying to make deals, trying to have more ownership, trying to do more. Trying to get exposure, trying to, be more in touch, be more. I have a whole team around me that are incredible and they do amazing things and they give me advice and they guide me and together we work to make the dream work. So.
We've heard what we've just saw Zoe Modiga there talking about her experience and, going from being independent and joining a label and having sort of, like you said, a team or people that are supporting you and making things easy for you, going through the legalities of it all. Does that resonate with you? Because you haven't really gone to a big label. You've done most of your work by yourself.
Yeah, I think even to this day, I think just even a couple of weeks ago, I learned something new about this industry. And I think it's always nice when you get to chat to even the most successful artists in this country. Everybody's had a crazy experience or a lesson that they've learned when it comes to relationships with labels or production companies or anything else industry related.
Talking about stealing, because in the show we're discussing piracy, music piracy. Do you feel the impact of piracy in your catalog, in your business? Because you said it's a business. Do you feel the impact of piracy?
Yeah, I think, it's not a direct impact, but I think it definitely has an effect in the long run. Um, but it's one of those things that you can't really escape nowadays. You just have to kind of work with it and try and make it part of your strategy. Um, but I think, in South Africa, I think a couple of years back, piracy wasn't as big here for like local music as it is now. And on one end, I think that's really awesome because...
But it's also because, what piracy is now, our piracy presents itself as somebody plugging the iPod into a computer and getting playlists, somebody putting a flash drive in a computer and getting playlists, somebody downloading from somewhere for downloading from the site. We used to say as kids, listen to the radio and then record songs off the radio. We just hope the DJ doesn't come in too early or come in you can't talk over the song. But that's how we used to get music. And if we think about it, that was...
That's actually quite a cool way to look at it because you can almost say how piracy has almost evolved into streaming services now and how we've gone through these different segments. But I do think that, and when we were talking off air and I was telling you that I think one of the major concerns about piracy is control and that there isn't control. And so I think streaming services, like Zoe was saying, she uses streaming service. I listen to music through streaming services.
Paid services.
and and I think that's awesome. I think it's a step in the right direction. It's better than not having control at all and people just taking your music and you can't tell how many people's listening, you can't tell stats, you can't see who's listening where, or what the impact your music is having on the rest of the world.
Do you make a viable income off of streaming services? I don't say viable. Obviously you make your money in different ways: performances, sales.
I think in comparison to selling your music directly, it's not as good. I think that's the problem that I think a lot of songwriters especially also have with streaming services because, you become like a third party in your own deal.
Yours,
with your own
music.
So there's another person involved now, and... on the one end, I think it's good because people are still paying now to listen to the music, but on the other end, we're all getting a bit less, so it feels like it's a bit of a sacrifice. And also, some streaming services work differently than others. So it definitely has an effect.
Still coming up in the show, we've got Diggy Bongz as well as Merman Mosengo. We're going to be chatting more about piracy, what the industry looks like, and just get their take on things. Right now, here's a little montage of how the music industry works with record labels in the United States. Check this out.
A typical record deal is structured something like this. The record label gives an advance, say 250,000 rand to the artist to record an album. The artist then records the album. Suppose that the album sells 500,000 copies, at 10 rand each, yielding 5 million rand. The record label takes their cut out of the 5 million rand, typically taking 85% out of the total sales, leaving the artist with 750,000 rand. But first, before the artist receives any payment, the label deducts the advance. In addition, the label recoups other costs such as recording, half the promotion costs, and tour support. This leaves the artist 425,000 rand in debt. This debt gets carried on to the next album and the next album and the next album.
I've managed to bring together a motley crew of very cool people on stage with us now. We still have Jimmy Nevis on stage with us. We also brought in Diggy Bongz from Heart FM. Diggy Bongz! How's it going, brother? You good?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm rock solid, man. Taking it well easy. This chair is like my home. It's like I own this thing now. And then also we've got Merman Mosengo, who plays with Afro Fiesta as well as playing for Change. Which has been going on for quite a long time now. The band has developed into a movement, essentially, and you guys are touring the world at the moment.
Well, it was first a movement, an idea, then it became a foundation, then it became a band.
And so, but you also, you've been in the industry for a long time, and you've played with a lot of different artists and seen a lot of things, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
I think maybe afterwards you can chat to Jimmy, give him a couple of tips, some insiders on what goes down. Yeah. We've all seen that clip now, just to specify, that's how the music industry apparently works in the United States regarding artists, relationships and contracts with record labels. Is that relatable to South Africa at all, Jimmy?
Yeah, absolutely. I think especially with the bigger record labels, there's definitely a lot of conditions and there's a lot of pretty much that exact same structure that goes on.
A lot of control.
Yeah, a lot of control. And I think sometimes a lot of, because a standard deal is a 2-album deal. But I've heard of 5-album deals. You know,
I thought the standard was a 3-album deal.
I hope not.
It just depends. I guess it depends on the label and how much.
It depends. And also, you know, I mean, I think, like I said earlier on, you know, so many artists in this industry can tell you about their successes and their failures and their lessons. And I mean, everyone has them.
It's sad.
It's sad.
Yeah, very sad to be a musician and to depend on a recording label for the rest of your life. I mean, as your songs you go to record, they pay for you, and then it becomes all this kind of stuff that, and you have to pay, you owe them stuff, and then you end up owing them instead of them paying you the money. You feel yourself like you are obligated to be with them.
You're enslaved. They trap you in a contract.
To be with them.
For a long time, I know that musicians still use that term now. When you sign the contract, they say you're signing your life away. Because it's more than just about the money and the music. It's also about your brand. You know, most recording labels in South Africa are connected in one way or another to the international recording labels. I mean, the biggest recording labels in South Africa are your Sonys, your BMGs, which are actually international. It's the same thing. So it is the same thing. You are signing your life away. They own your entire brand. You know, they own the name Jimmy Nevis. Jimmy Nevis, if he's signed Sony, he cannot go anywhere and sell anything under Jimmy Nevis without their consent.
But now, if it's such a problem, and I've seen documentaries, I've seen videos of artists who get owned by labels, and I'm not trying to dog labels. Record labels, there are probably a lot of them that do a very good job and look after the artists, but some of them have a bad reputation. I think the industry might have a bad reputation. Why are artists still so, I want to get signed, I must, why is there still that big drive?
Look, I do feel like there has been a shift though. I do feel like, yes, you know, we've been fed in movies that, you know, if you perform at enough bars around, you know, the A&Rs from record labels are going to come and scout you and discover you. And, you know, even when I speak to kids and whatever, one of my things is like, discover yourself, you know, like you can do that. We have so many resources now. The internet has changed everything, you know. And I think also there's been a slow but very steady movement towards the independent artist and the independent label. You know, there's a lot more support for independent artists. I mean, if you look at people like Casper, Niewenhuis, who are doing these amazing, you know, and he's independent. And there's so many other great independent artists or artists who are now switching to independent styles because it's, you know, more control, it's more lucrative. And, you know, even it's not even just in music, I find, even, you know,
in entertainment in general, there are people just doing things for
even
themselves.
In magazines, I find that, you know, these bloggers these days, they have their own followings, and so they are attracting more people than some of the magazine articles that get shared on the internet. And so in that sense, the independent artist or the independent person is actually has a lot of power.
The age of the independent artist is evolving. It's coming to the fore,
I think another important thing to mention is that what all artists want ultimately is for their music to be heard, and they just want to be artists. Nowadays, because of this struggle between independent and record labels, you have artists who have to become business savvy. You know, the only reason Casper Nyovest is this successful is because he's a great businessman first and a great artist second. So if you're an independent artist and you just all about your music, it's going to be difficult for you to become a great businessman and have a strong business. That's where the big record label comes in, where you can just only concentrate on being an artist and let them handle the business.
But Jimmy's got a very interesting structure in the way that he's sort of shaped his business. He's an independent artist, but then he uses other independent channels to create what from the outside looks like a big company, but is made up of small components.
He's a great businessman.
But that's what it's all about, you know.
Yeah. I mean, if I wanted to add something, because, well, I'm not from here, I'm a Congolese, and I've been playing music here since the late 90s. So I can say my career kind of started here. You know, what is the way out of this, if I have to think? That's the way out. Maybe, I don't know, maybe to create a syndicate of artists a group of artists to defend ourselves.
I agree with you there. Guys, on that point, we're going to go through and check out some, the crew went out and interviewed some people on the streets about music piracy and where they get their music from. But guys, thank you very much for adding to the conversation. It's great having you in studio. Always good to see you. Let's check out these Vox Pops and see what the public think about piracy and where they get their music from.
Have you ever illegally downloaded music?
Yeah, a few times. Then more often than not, actually.
If by illegal you mean free downloads, yeah, I have.
Yeah, I think I probably have.
I don't usually download illegal music, no.
Certainly. Yes, 100%.
I mostly listen to a local community radio station.
Never. No, I've never illegally downloaded music or downloaded music in general.
That video is an accurate depiction of what goes on. Everybody does it. I mean, people were very honest there. There were like 3 or 4 liars. That's like, no, I don't. But it's so easy to pirate. You just plug a flash drive in and you've got 1,000 songs, 100 songs from your friend.
And the hurtful thing is that there's a bigger industry supporting that. A technological industry, like the flash drive industry, the computer industry, which started with the double-sided tape industry.
Oh, the boombox.
Exactly. So that, you can't just blame those people. You have to take it further and blame the bigger industry.
You know, I never thought of it that way because the internet is based on sharing. Social media, everything, the world today, or maybe always, is based on sharing things, sharing files, sharing information, whether it's music or whatever. We are pirating things every day. And you mentioned the streaming, that's just organized crime. That is piracy, but in an organized sort of manner.
The decriminalization of piracy.
It's a tough one, is it? And we also mentioned, you guys mentioned that musicians want to be heard, they want the exposure. Isn't piracy in some way or another a good thing?
I think exposure, isn't going to give you bread on your table, So I think to some extent, it's all about control. If I know that I'm releasing a free song, I can strategize and be like, okay, this is the free song. I'm going to gain so many followers, or so many people are going to listen to this because I'm releasing it through so many portals. And then from the next live show, I can expect to see so many people there, you know what I mean? And I can make money off of that. But when it's so open-ended and you don't have control over that, it's very difficult for the artist to maintain all of these different sections because there's a lot of businesses that are part of the music business. And so, we need to have control. We need to know what's happening all the time so we can plan ahead.
So rather you choose to let's call it pirate music, but share it for free.
Yeah, it's different when it's,
You've decided to. It's like the one is a gift and the other one's a crime.
Yeah, there we go.
Boom, genius! Right now we've got a video coming up from one of SA's local hottest rappers, Nande, the rapper. This guy has got mad talent. You can actually catch his video, his music online. Check it out. Guys, once again, thank you very much. Having the kind of insight from the 3 of you is absolutely genius.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Check out this video, Nande, the next hot thing.
Is that me? That guy there is amazing. Oh, the camera's on. Oh. This is Red Oak the Dawn, #1 in Cape Town. I'm born for this, man. I'm hungry. Can't you see the hunger? People in this office know me. I get free KFC and I'm writing rhymes. I write rhyme on tables when I go to sleep. That's all I know. Chilling in the street. Look at my feet. My album's currently for sale right now for 10 Rand. Go get it now. It's hot. You feeling the heat? What's up? What's up? Mixtapes on mixtapes, man. Go get my stuff. Nigga. Jigga. Pa. Woo!
Can we have a moment silence for the sirens? This is how we made it straight to the block. I remember when we couldn't walk inside the shops. We didn't have enough cash.
I'm sure many of you are thinking that you've heard this conversation now and it's only the tip of the iceberg. There's only so much we can cover in one show, but you're very right. There's so much more to do with the music industry, with record labels, and with piracy. There's a wealth of knowledge to be uncovered and explored. And hopefully later on in the series, we'll be able to do that more. But for now, just remember that it is that easy to pirate music. It is that easy to be involved in an industry where people are exploited and taken advantage of. So look out for yourself. If you're an artist, look out for other artists. And if you're a consumer like myself, try and be a little bit more honest about it. Everybody needs to make their living in some way. Let's not try and be the ones that is taking that living away from them. You heard it right here on Nami.